Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. Today, we will hear from two of IPP's ambassadors, Yosef Moore and Paris Knox, on the importance of self-advocacy for currently and formerly incarcerated individuals. In this conversation, Paris and Yosef will share their experiences and strategies for advocating for change within a complex system. By emphasizing self-advocacy, we aim to foster a movement where those directly impacted by the system lead the way toward their meaningful change. Today, I would like to first have each of our wonderful ambassadors today introduce themselves. Paris, could you introduce yourself, please, and tell them a little about you?
Hi, my name is Paris Knox. I am an ambassador for IPP, and I have learned a lot, sharpening up my skills. I also work for a nonprofit organization, Take Back Your Legacy, and it deals with people who have been impacted on the war on drugs. We help them, re-emerge back into society and giving them the tools to find jobs. If they have a business idea, to bring a business idea to life. And getting the stepping stone for them to succeed. It's a 12-week program.
And you're safe.
Yeah.
Speak about yourself and what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm Yosef Moore. I use he, him pronouns. I myself too am an ambassador with IPP. I work for Access Living. I'm the diversion reentry policy analyst with Access Living. I advocate for people with disabilities at the intersection of incarceration. I think, and even my introduction, I just want to put this out there because it's so important. I think it's something that's overlooked, that 40% of people who are arrested and held in Cook County Jail are people with a disability. 30% of people who are in prison are people with a disability. And I think that that's something that may be overlooked in the overall perspective of what goes on in prison, and the amount of people we have in prison, and that that particular set of people need to have accommodations. I'm glad to be here to talk about advocacy because it's something that, me being a former incarcerated person, and for people who are incarcerated, it's something that we need to learn to do, because incarceration in of itself strips one of their own autonomy, and it will allow other people to make decisions for you, even when those decisions are not in your best interest. So I'm elated to be here to engage in this conversation.
But what I want to do today, we're gonna have some questions for you, and give you the opportunity to express your views on these subjects. Whoever feels the need to, one that speaks to you directly, just jump in, and then we'll go to the next person. If you feel it speaks to you, then you go. All right? You ready for it? Okay. What does it mean? What does it mean to actually truly advocate for oneself, especially in a society that often reduces you to your worst moments?
Well, I'll go first.
Okay.
To me, only you can tell your story. Only you know what you're advocating for. Like, can't nobody go out and advocate for you and tell your story better than yourself, because you don't want to walk through your story. Just because I may have told you my story don't mean you're going to tell it like I'm going to tell it. You're not going to have the compassion to get up there and say what needs to be said because you're not feeling this story. I'm feeling this story because I walked through this story. So for me to grab people's ears and for them to hear like the change that need to be made in certain events, that's my job to do. That's how I feel about it. Like, that's my job to do. Like, advocating is important. When you can get up there and you can defend yourself, we have a voice to defend ourselves, and that's what advocating means to me. Me defending myself, defending what I believe in, and standing on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Paris. Yeah.
Yeah, Joseph, you want to chime in on that question?
Yeah, I definitely will. To advocate for oneself is to engage in a revolutionary act of self-care all the way across the board. I think if one is not really advocating for oneself, asking that one's needs be met, or the accommodation that a person needs to really exercise and participate in self-care. I think that is the basis of advocating for. That is the basis of self-care, being able to advocate for oneself, and ask for the things that you need. And I think for those of us who have been system impacted, advocating for oneself was something that was penalized when using, inside. They say, though the squeaky wheel in prison, which means the person who advocates for him or herself, or they themselves, and speaks up for other people, that wheel doesn't get the oil in prison. That wheel gets solitary confinement. So I think, many of us, have been, programmed or socialized not to advocate for ourselves. Just accept what is given to us, whether, it meets our needs or to accommodate us in the things that we need done or that we have to do for ourselves, right? So I think, returning to society, that's something that I have learned. I learned that I have to advocate for myself, because if I don't advocate for myself, I'm not truly caring for myself. I'm not truly, participating in self-care. And it is important that we do that also as system impacted people, but because we tend to just accept what is given to us. And that's something that we don't want to do, because the things that are usually given to us are the things that I consider the scraps that other people don't need or don't want. And they don't serve us.
That's actually so true. You can tell someone that's actually had a direct impact into the system by the way they're able to articulate and they explain those conditions that people, men and women, face inside. So I appreciate that, Yosef. Both our how does one acknowledging both their mistakes and our successes empower us to become stronger self advocates? So having that balance of oneself, recognizing your mistakes and your successes, how does that make you a stronger advocate?
I think by acknowledging your mistakes and acknowledging your successes, right? It can serve as a barometer of your growth, like almost like a measuring tool. The mistakes that you once made in the past, they can be used as an example of where you were at a particular time in your life, right? And what was going on in your life and your thought processes at that time, and the result of that particular thought process, right? And then your successes will be, in many instances, the total opposite, the antithesis of that prior thought process that led to those mistakes. So by acknowledging that you once made mistakes, also give yourself grace, understanding that you are human, acknowledging that, but also acknowledging your successes. It shows growth. It shows growth. It shows the transformation of one's thinking. And I think it's important that we use both, right? Because if we only focused on the success, or we only on a mistake, or we only focus on the success, right? It can be difficult to see that line of growth. It can be difficult to see the progress that we have made from where we once was to where we currently are. So I think that that is important, right? Because even in seeing that growth, right, it gives one the confidence to say that I'm no longer that particular person. Therefore, I demand to be treated differently than someone would want to treat that particular person. Although that person also, that past person who engaged in those prior acts that led to those prior mistakes, right, also deserves fair and equal treatment. But when one acknowledges that they're not that person, they internalize that they're not that person anymore, right? And they are living in one with their successes, they won't accept anything less. Or should I say they shouldn't accept anything less?
Thank you. You are actually a shining example of the statement that I was told many years ago, that those that are closest to the problem are closest to the solution. The way you articulate that so well, you can yeah, I appreciate that. So Paris, do you want to touch on that as well?
Yeah, when I think about that question, I'm a visual learner. So, in the time where I was making mistakes, I didn't feel like I was making mistakes. I didn't say I was making mistakes. And when I got stirred up into my mistake, I had time to sit down and evaluate what I was doing. So today and every day, it seemed like I could see the mistakes I made through other people. It's like sometimes an incident will surface up, and it'd be an incident that I went through before, and now I have a chance to actually make the right decisions and not make it into something worse, but something better. Even when I'm with the participants, I can have a conversation with them. I see the mistakes they make because I made those same mistakes, and I try to give them a pull up so they won't have to walk when I walk through that mud, so they can walk on the sidewalk and be clean with it. So that's how I look at it.
Thank you, Varys. That's amazing. You know, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure that you know, our viewers got the chance to hear actually the brilliance of the ambassadors that we have, because you know our lived, you can't take away and you can't downplot our lived experiences and how valuable those lived experiences are. Um, in what ways can we teach others to see self-advocacy not just as a personal journey, but as a necessary step toward collective liberation? Anybody for that?
To me, I don't look at it as a self journey because we had people who advocated before us, and it wasn't a self journey. It was a united journey. It was a color journey. So it wasn't just for that one person, it was for the good, the better of the world. So that's how I always looked at it until I became an advocate and advocate for the things that I advocate for. So to me, it's like two levels. When you come out and you advocate for something that's dear to you, that you know about, and then when you advocate for a bigger solution for the world, for everybody.
You mind reading the question again, Javier?
Certainly. I believe it's definitely worth repeating. In what way can we teach others to see self-advocacy not just as a personal journey, as one's personal journey, but as a necessary step toward collective liberation?
You know, in this, right, I think it's also important when we talk about advocacy and we talk about collective liberation. I think it's important that we highlight, you know, the historical movements of collective advocacy for liberation. We, you know, and what comes to mind is the civil rights movement, right? The voting rights movement, the poor people's movement. When you think about those movements, right, and we understand the impact that those movements have had on the way we live in society today, we are able to vote because people, African Americans, and you know a collection of people, African Americans headed, but you know even white people, right, came together to advocate for a cause, a righteous cause, saying that, you know, this particular sect of people who are a part of the United States of America also should have the right to vote. It's a constitutional right. If you're born in America, you should have the right to vote. But yet African Americans denied this right to vote. Women was denied this right to vote, right? So when you think about this movement, it wasn't just an individual person advocating for him or herself or themselves, you know, to say that they wanted to vote. They got with other people, and in those numbers, they came up, you know, with genius ideas on how they can advocate and how everyone, you know, can be positively affected by it. So I think it's important that we teach people history, because as Alexis de Tocqueville said, that without the ability to compare, the mind doesn't know how to proceed. So if people are totally unaware that it was, you know, a group of people who advocated, who came together and advocated for a cause, and the result of them, you know, coming together, advocate for a cause was the, you know, the freedoms and rights that we have today, then people like, man, come together and advocate for what? Why should I come together and advocate for when they can't see in that moment, you know, what fruit that work would bear? But reflecting on history and become aware of history and understanding these liberation movements and how people came together, you know, to make these changes, I think they need to be taught that. I think it's important that we educate people about the history of the movements, and also to serve as examples, of what advocacy look like and what the successes of advocacies are. I think that's something that we know that we must do, bringing people along and showing them how we advocated for ourselves as individuals and how we also assist, as Paris said, in the collective movement of liberation, advocating for liberation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to hit this one. This is amazing. How can we deconstruct the harmful narrative that others must always lead us and instead empower ourselves to take the lead in our own advocacy? Right? Do you get that? And I wanted to just chime in a little bit because we have a lot of people in these movements that we talk about about the criminal legal system, and many of them are not those that's directly impacted by that. And how can we begin to get men and women like us to to take the lead in this advocacy? Of course, we don't have the big backings and money and finances that other people that have done this work for, but how do we push each other forward in these positions?
I would say, stop being scared. Sometimes people let fear hold them back. And I was like one of those. Like I never wanted to protest and stuff like that because I was scared. And then life changed. And basically that's what I'm doing. I'm advocating, I'm protesting. We also let people tell us no. And we believe that's what it is, no. But if you keep going, that no will be a yes. I was told I couldn't go inside the prisons. Here it is. I've been inside Pontiac and I've been back inside Logan. So it's up to us to step out the box or that comfortable bubble that we have and get out there and kick some doors down and do what we need to do. Because if we just sit there and live in fear, we will have anybody trying to lead us, and they might lead us into a brick wall.
I appreciate that. Joseph, Yosef, stick out. What challenges have you faced in advocating for yourself? And how have you navigated those challenges? Some of the things challenges you faced.
Well, the challenges that I faced in advocating for myself were I don't want to say, like, the term that comes to mind just right offhand is like they were self-inflicted, like the doubt that I had, being system impacted, that I've been home for 2 years now, right? And for like the first year and a half, that colored my willingness to truly advocate for myself, because my confidence, I really didn't have the confidence to advocate for myself, right? I didn't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. I didn't want to make any waves because I was, been so conditioned not to really speak up and ask for my needs, because this is a condition of prison, right? You accept what's given to you, and especially if you're trying to, especially if you're trying to, right? But you don't want to cause yourself no problems in that environment, because you know what those particular problems look like, right? Sent to segregation, for a protracted period of time, right? Officers not delivering your mail, throwing your mail away, throwing your pictures away, not rolling your door for you to go to yard. Like, it's a lot of retaliatory actions that they take. So one will not to have to face those sort of problems, just not advocate for themselves. And that's a conditioning that one can find themselves in. So when I came home, I wasn't really advocating for myself. I was accepting the things that came my way and just doing the best I could, to get by. And then, it just being even an ambassador with IPP, right? And being an apprentice in Restore Justice apprenticeship program, like, we not our worst act. We aren't our worst act, and we shouldn't be judged by the worst thing we did, in our lives. And I think that thing gave me those particular principles and values gave me the confidence to say, you know what, I ain't accepting anything less than. I'm not accepting things that really don't don't accommodate the needs that I have. And I think it was really a change in mindset. It wasn't so much as a flipping of a switch because it wasn't that instantaneous, right? But I just slowly grew in understanding that I shouldn't continue to be punished for what I did. And if I don't stand up and advocate for myself, I will be inflicting myself with that punishment. I will be feeling that I'm not deserving of the things that I need, the accommodations that I should have. And so I think just me, just, being a part of these programs, with you, Ronaldo, Wendell, Swan, right? And having conversations with you all who have been here long, who have returned to society longer than I have, just the different keys and information that you all share with me about the adjustment process has given me the confidence, to advocate for myself. And once I started doing it and my needs started being met, I knew that this is the thing that I should be doing. And it gave me the confidence to continue to do so. I know that was a long answer, but that was
a necessary long answer. Right. So thank you for that. Paris, I want to hit you with this, and I want you to chime in on this one too, Yosef, but I want to go to Paris first. Because you talked about this a minute ago, you brought it up, Yosef. How does understanding, Paris, how does understanding the fact that no one is their worst act influence your approach for self-advocacy and the way you interact with others?
I'm sorry about that. To me, nobody their worst acts. We all make mistakes. We all try to learn from our mistakes, and we all try to, do things better. And the best thing about it is when somebody can learn from your mistakes. So, like me growing up, I seen people, make mistakes with the wrong thing, and it might have been a mistake for them or a curse for them, but it was a blessing to me. I learned from it and didn't walk down that road. So that's why. So to me, it wasn't worst act. It was, this is what you got to walk through, and it's for me to learn. I'm learning about what you go through it, and you're learning why you're going through it. And then at the end of the tunnel, we at the finish road with our different perspectives of what we had learned. So it ain't a worst act, it's just things that we go through.
That I'm worthy. Understanding that I'm not my worst act allows me to have, compassion and grace with myself, and let me know that I'm worthy of better treatment, that I'm worthy, that I'm worthy of of being respected. I'm worthy of receiving this particular job. I'm worthy to be sitting in whatever spaces that I'm sitting in doing this criminal legal reform work, right? I think that that understanding that I'm not my worst act gives me the confidence, to be in spaces, that I really would feel I shouldn't be in if I didn't forgive myself. People make mistakes. Everybody make mistakes, right? Everybody's mistake may not have been, as, tragic as the mistake that I made, but people make mistakes that could alter, the course of their lives. And if they live in that shame, if a person live in that shame, we'll never really measure up to what, our talent or our potential. The mistake that I made was no measurement of the potential that I have, right? And so I think understanding that and embracing that and understanding that that was a mistake that one made in this particular, point in their life, and that they not that particular person anymore, gives us the confidence to really strike out on new paths and try to, create, a new world for ourselves, a new experience for ourselves.
I actually appreciate that, because if you look at, I think we extend grace, in our work that we do, because we're in the people profession, and we extend grace to people because so much grace has been bestowed upon us. I understand that no one is their worst act, because as you both said, I'm not the same person I was when I was 17, 19, or 20. And me knowing that about myself, that self-knowledge, that I'm not my worst act, allows me to extend grace and support, and to extend that same advocacy for others. And I think that's one of the things that make us ideal for the work, for the amazing work that we're in. So thank you for that. We're going to close out in a minute, but if any of you have anything lastly that you'd like to say before we close.
Well, just to piggyback on what you just said, right? Being that what we know now, right, through science, Miller versus Alabama, that Supreme Court, monumental Supreme Court decision. I understand that the brain doesn't even fully develop until age 25. Essentially, a 19-year-old is a totally different person than a 45-year-old, right? And so I think when we really think about this, us as in being people who have made mistakes, that's why I think we should give ourselves grace, because we really truly we aren't them people anymore. And so I think it's important that we forgive ourselves for, we have to. That's a part of self-care. We have to forgive ourselves from those past, mistakes that we made. And then forgiving ourselves of those past mistakes, I really think it really, like I say, imbues us with the confidence, man, to really strike out and be, the people who we want to be today.
Thank you. Paris, you want to add on to something?
I just want to say thank you for letting me be a part of this amazing panel.
I appreciate you too, Paris. So many times that the female perspective of women are incarcerated is sometimes missed and overlooked. And I'm honored to have people like yourself as an ambassador to fill those gaps. And my fellow ambassador Najee Webster as well, as community navigator here at IPP, to fill in those gaps where we may not see everything. So I appreciate you for that. With that being said, another Lunch and Learn has come to an end. Thank you to everyone who spent their lunch with us today. If you would like to learn more about our work and resources, please visit our website. Specifically related to today's discussion, check out the information on our first 14-day handbook, which is a deep dive into key things someone returning home would need to know within the first 14 days of release. If you have legal questions of your own, please sign up for our bi-monthly legal clinic, where you can find that at our website, www.illinoisprisonproject.org. Okay. Thank you.